can probably just get started. So we'll start with the product updates. I mean, we had a new release from Omen. Caden, would you be able to summarize that?
Yeah, I think it was mostly some interface changes. We've got a lot of subgraph changes have been pushed through. That's been busy. Let me actually just pull it up. But so we fixed lots of bugs with that. We added some more options for the history chart. Fixed some transitions for showing you what you're buying and selling. Yeah, so it's the next release. I think we're planning on making it. It should be a lot more. Should be a bigger release. We have a lot of stuff to include, and that's like a lot of bigger UI changes, like actual presentational changes, and yeah, we've got some lots of additions for that. Actually, what are some examples?
And I know something else that has been getting discussed is the DXdao, like deployment on DXdao. It looks like the conditional token framework is now deployed on DXdao, and
yeah, we were just talking about that on the conditional token call a bit. So it looks like the token framework is deployed, and then reality is deployed on DXdao, and then I think they said that Claros is making a bridge for DXdao. So yeah, we should be good to get started on that. Looking forward to it.
Great. And then on Mesa, there's a new release that's linked to in the Mesa channel for people to kind of beta test. And yeah, so it adds some functionality to like help people define the order. You can schedule it to only be valid in the future, and you can also define an expiration date. So, you know, this should hopefully help people kind of like planning sales. They can basically say, oh, this will happen. You know, it could be good for IDOs, etc. Yeah, that's the main thing. I don't think on the dev side that's basically it there. For DX swap, do you want to, Augusto? Do you want to talk about that, or Nico?
Yeah, I think Nico can give an update about that because I wasn't working on DX swap this week. Only Nico was on the scheme, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So an update from my side, at least from the side of integration between the DXdao and DXswap. So basically, we finalized the contract that will ensure the connection. Currently, I am in discussion with DAOstack to do some first formal verification of the contracts, doing some quality checks there before getting the contract audited, which we, I guess, could start as soon as the proposal to get the auditor on board will pass.
Right, I had made that DAO Talk post about the auditor Phil Sunfish Technologies. He's ready, I think, ready to start. He could start on Tuesday next week, or he could even start the following week. I guess we got to make sure that he understands how the proposal can take some days to pass. So we'll have to schedule that with him based on when you're ready and he's ready, assuming that it goes through.
Yep. And also like an update on like the integration, because we've been talking about not only providing liquidity, but for example, doing swaps. So the integration between the DXdao and DXswap is built in a really generic way that we can allow additional function calls, for example, as swapping tokens or something like that, even at a later point with the same contract. yeah, so we try to keep it as generic as possible here.
Great. So then the idea is to test this on Kovan, right, too? And so we're still working on Kovan subgraph deployment, I think, and actually deploying the DAO itself to Kovan, and that'll be the next step. And then I don't think anybody working on, I don't think Federico's on the call, but Rails looks like it's basically ready to launch. I haven't had a chance to test it myself. I don't know if anybody else has looked at it. It seemed like, based on the screenshots I was seeing, it looked pretty cool. I don't know if anybody on the call here can speak to that, but it looks like it's in good shape. And then the next version of Loopring was also announced. Pretty exciting that they're going to support AMMs. And I guess that's something we'll have to think about for the future of Rails, right? Like, could you actually do an exchange, an AMM-based exchange on that? But pretty interesting, I think, because if you could, I haven't looked at the release notes or anything from Loopring, so I'm not quite sure what's possible, but I think the idea of having liquidity tokens on L1 that represent liquidity that's actually trading on L2 could be pretty interesting. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that and dig into that more. Yeah, for the products, I think that's all the product updates. Governance, I think a big thing too that we can talk about this more later too, is the calls that are happening with DAOstack this week could potentially impact how we work on governance related stuff. Potentially could have collaboration with them. There's a call posted on YouTube from yesterday that Matan, the CEO and founder of DAOstack, led. So something to keep an eye on. I think it's clear that DXdao has a lot of technical problems that need to be addressed on the governance side, from scalability, gas costs, this idea of having communities around specific products, et cetera, that we're calling guilds, and then some of the fundamental kind of game theory alignment stuff that might need to be solved for. So there's a lot to do on the governance side, and I mean, in my opinion, it would be great if DAOstack was more closely involved, and we work closer together. So I'm cautiously optimistic that will get more ramped up, but we'll see. All right, so Ingemar, do you want to move over to what happened in BizDev?
Yeah, BizDev this week. So we went over a few Mesa IDO prospects. Hedgic, which I think is opting to another IDO platform. Razor, who's still interested, and StarCurve, which is looking less legit the more we dig deeper into it. There's also Eluna Social, which Ken is helping onboard onto the Gnosis protocol. They're having some gas issues, but it looks like Eluna could be like the next ratified Mesa listing, which is pretty exciting. I think there's a lot we could explore there, as they could integrate some of our products in their trading community platform. What else? Powers presented an awesome slideshow on DX swap strategy, and I don't know if you want to go into that deeper, Chris. And we also talked about the DXdao worker opportunities, which I presented in the DAO Rush Week event. If any of you guys were able to be present for that, you saw a little piece on that. I thought it was dope. We also met with the PlotX prediction market team. I think it was yesterday, and we talked about potential first engagements for governance, which could involve some of the markets that they have and us voting on them as a service. So it's something that we're still exploring. It's going to be different for every single project, obviously, but I think that was a great first initial meeting among us and the PlotX team. So we could potentially get an engagement out of that soon for governance as a service. And what else? And yeah, I think that's mostly it.
Yeah, Plotx seems like an interesting product and like a quite capable dev team. They were some of the devs behind Nexus Mutual, and it sounds like they're trying to do prediction markets that are focused totally on price, like not outcomes of or whatever, just on what is the price of something, and they're looking for governance help, right, Ingemar, like on
Correct.
creation of like basically the pairs or deploying new like. I'm just learning about their product, but it's like deploying new kind of market generators, right? So that like if you picked, say, YFI price or something, you could deploy one of those, and then it would continually kind of deploy markets around that. And I guess where DXdao could potentially help is creating, like deciding on which one of those like strategies or to add.
Yeah, and once we do, it's kind of like indefinite, I suppose. So if you do like a pairing like Wi-Fi, you wouldn't have to like do it every single time. So I think it'd be a cool way for like to get like an established collective to sort of give a stamp of approval. I think that is a value, and there could be like some like monetary or token alignment there.
It's interesting to see that. So now Hedgix doing not using Mesa, and Plotx also sounded like they were trying to do a bonding, or not really a bonding curve, like but an issuance curve, like basically a buy price like on a curve. So it's interesting. I think it'll be something for us to gather feedback on, right, and kind of see what is it that's deterring people from Mesa, like where can it be improved? Is there it's interesting because the DXdao sale itself is a bonding curve. So if these guys are choosing to do curves or issuance curves, like what is there something missing there? Like is there an opportunity in the market? Something to keep an eye on, I think.
I just from personally, I tried Mesa once, but just from personal use, I think there's like 5 transactions that need to be done.
And the gas prices are
and then the gas prices
incredible.
Are
so unless you're dealing with like tens of thousands of dollars, it's pretty discouraging, right? Like,
and now the question is if I bet some people are interested in exactly what DXdao has done in terms of like DX raise, and then I guess setting that up is not an easy process, but I'm assuming some of these teams would be interested in doing exactly that.
Yeah, that's something we should potentially look at more.
And if I'm putting like the DAO stack hat, if they launch on a DAO stack DAO with this, it's obviously great for us.
Right. So another potential collaboration point between DAO stack and DXdao potentially.
Yeah.
All right. So move to the dev call. Augusto, I don't know if you wanted to, if you're still there. I can maybe talk about it too. I was on it, but.
Well, I'm working on the notes. I should have added notes yesterday, where we were doing an overview of the products, and we also added like Rails on the agenda. We are going to be discussing Rails every week, or at least when Federico can join the calls. Then what else? Oh yeah, the big thing on the dev call was the demo of the wiki that Pepo showed on working on Rinkebai. I was talking already with him, and yeah, that was a big point there. Then we were discussing, talking a bit about ERC20 guilds and guilds, but yeah, that was it. Overview of the products and the demo of the wiki, which was very good, by the way, and it worked as we expected, and Pepo delivered. He delivered everything.
Yeah, the wiki would allow us to update information on the website more easily, right? Which seems like a big need because we see like documents getting updated every week, it seems, and the process of deploying a new landing page and voting on that can be a little more involved. I also forgot to mention on the biz dev Mesa side, I believe Gnosis sent 10,000 OWL to the treasury. Let me check. They at least said they said so in the chat. I don't see it in the treasury though. So that should be coming. And that is as like basically an incentive for the M stable sale. And it would be revenue, right? So then it really should be sent to the curve. The problem is we need to be able to change it to Ether and then send it to the curve. So this I think that's either a scheme that we make or maybe I think Augusto, you actually already started on this relayer, right? The DX Trust relayer we could potentially use for it. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, exactly. We can later write a relayer with the script that we want to execute. Well, what token do we want to change to Ether?
So it's 10,000 OWL, which is a stable coin. So I think the easiest thing, because the curve takes 10%, so the easiest thing may be to simply take the 10% directly from the treasury and send it straight to the buyback reserve.
Okay.
Since Gnosis just sent it to the treasury, I think, and then versus calling the pay function, which would normally be the revenue running.
Okay, why don't we change the entire hour?
We could do that too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's talk about that later on the development channel.
Yeah, so just the mechanics of getting that into the buyback reserve, but the revenue is there.
Yeah, I can code it. So if you guys let me know what you need.
Awesome. Very cool. Chris, do you want to take us to governance? A lot of action there.
Sure. I actually just posted notes like 10 minutes ago. Yeah, so Manifesto is on IPFS with the goal wanting to get a proposal passed with high voter turnout. So now trying to think whether we can pair it with the switch to like the Coven DAO, which or just the migration to a more gas efficient voting system. Discussed a bit about the updated worker compensation guidelines. Consensus with this is a priority, especially as we try to recruit new contributors. Need to pay competitively and need to make sure DXD is part of a salary. I'm working on a document right now with some input that I'm hoping to share by the end of the day on that. This also led to an interesting broader discussion on how basically DXdao needs to have more worker opportunities that are like bite-sized and modular, and like GitHub being a good place that's hosting a lot of this now. But of course, DXdao does not have one GitHub account, and discussion on how like that would happen, and also how DXdao could potentially fund decentralized infrastructure. Like I think Particle is the alternative, and I think so Sky's exploring that, but it does kind of demonstrate like how DXdao can be a leader in building and using decentralized infrastructure. On the governance as a service front, talked about DAO stack execution and gas cost. Nico had a post on the execution front, and then the script for gas reimbursement is complete, and there's actually a proposal already in Alchemy for that. On the guilds front, thought it was a helpful framing for kind of the two different discussions. Augusto talking about like the idea of, we have the one main DAO with guilds that have a portion of rep. And so the guilds would be ERC20 based, and the DXD guild would be the work. So that would kind of just be, we still have the main DAO, and the guilds would have part of rep. Nylon is kind of a similar idea of guilds, but they would actually have their own rep just as DXdao does, and it's basically kind of like the sharing compromise between those that is interesting. So I thought that was a good framing as we kind of look to explore that further. Discuss the 5-point plan, and would would kind of encourage people to kind of look more at that and think about how to move things forward, particularly on what the communication and reporting obligations for the Curve research group. And then did have a quick discussion about the post about a June 2019 rep auction, and we'll kind of continue to follow that.
Cool. And did we want to touch a little bit on the DXY? I guess we kind of glossed
I
over on the product.
was ready to do it, but I thought.
Sorry about that.
No, it was really commentary. I don't know, it was the pause, but there's nothing else the governance. Just to talk a little bit about DX swap. So as Ingemar mentioned, had a presentation Monday, kind of a strategy session on DX swap that I'm hoping to get into a DAO talk post, hopefully by the end of the day today too, that kind of centers and discusses some of the parameters that I think that the community needs to decide, and really kind of like three components of that we're focusing on. One is the fee strategy. Two is DXdao provided liquidity. So this is putting the treasury in DXSwap, and then three is DXD liquidity rewards. So there's kind of some discussion on each of them, and obviously with SushiSwap launching in the past week, there's lots of discussion on on the strategy around this. And I think as much as we think about attracting initial liquidity providers, we want to have a long-term way of retaining them. But also, liquidity providers are important to DXSwap, but just as important are traders, right? And how can you make it appealing to traders? And at the end of the day, it's going to be the best price. And so that's part of the fee strategy, and kind of having lower fees than DXSwap, which are then actually subsidized by DXD rewards to liquidity providers, should provide a long-term way of kind of gaining, of owning some pairs and having really kind of keeping that liquidity. And that's also can be helped by focusing on some specific pairs that the DXDAO could provide liquidity on itself. So hopefully we put this in a post by the end of the day, and then we'll continue the conversation tomorrow on the DXSwap call.
Yeah, also regarding DXSwap, what is blocking us is we need a plan to execute, a plan that I can code, an execution plan, a deployment plan with with which pair are we going to support, how much funds are we going to send there. So I came up with an idea in order to automate and execute this plan on chain from a proposal, which I think is possible, and I'm going to be working on that next week. But till we don't have a plan approved by the community and by DXdao, we won't be able to execute anything.
And so code-wise, we're in pretty good shape on DXSwap, except for the Kovan testing, right? That's the thing that's kind of missing here, and the audit for the scheme.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like we can probably get all of this kind of going in parallel over the next few weeks, right? Like if we can make a proposal for the liquidity, like kind of deployment plan in the next week or so, we get the audit going on the scheme, so the integration in the next week or so, and then we can start testing it on Kovan. Like then, I think that kind of lines us up to be launching for the end of the month. I hesitate to put a date, because I think it's a mistake to put dates when you're not really confident in them. I think it's better just to say soon, and then make sure you really know what you're doing before you commit to anything. And Ingemar is talking about the hype cycle here, and we're seeing quite a lot of hype around different things like sushi, kimchi, whatever. CL mentioned something in chat about picking a launch date that's like a mild day, like not, something crazy. This is not happening. So I mean, I don't really know the answer to that. I trust CL because I mean he's a cool internet cat. And I think he knows what he's talking about. So well, we can kind of coordinate with them on what they think is maybe the best timing to it, because I do think there is like a timing element here.
Yeah, John, about that, if we can execute everything from a proposal, like we have a DXwap deployer that is going to be called by a proposal by just sending Ether, and then it's going to execute the deployment script. That will be like the best way to have a time date, right? That okay, when this proposal gets executed,
it will be clear.
yeah. And if we want, we can even like push for the majority vote and try to get the deployment happen on a specific level.
I really like that idea, just because we need to maintain the possibility to have a majority vote. We succeeded once. I think we will succeed twice, and it's an important signal that we can protect against attacks quickly. So I like this. This just using. I think DXwap is a very important product. So I'm sure we will get the votes.
Exactly. Yeah.
John, on the audit, you mentioned a couple of things with timing. Like the audit has to be fully done and complete before you can move to the next steps, right? And that could theoretically not be done for 2.5 weeks from now, right?
Well, so the audit should take 4 days, and this is not of the DXswap system. This is for the integration, which is the new kind of Solidity code. There is some modifications to Uniswap to make the fees. So we've had those reviewed. There hasn't been an official audit. I think that the thinking is that to get like a full audit on that would be very expensive, and Uniswap v2 was audited. So I mean, if we could find a firm that would like do the changes, maybe we will do that. Even like maybe we can get those reviewed as well before launch. But yeah, the scheme itself, which is the one that the post is about, it should only take like 4 days. If there's changes, maybe there's another week or something. But I don't think we're talking months or anything.
Yeah, I think it
2.5 weeks, right? Like, 'cause you need a proposal complete, and then he does it when he can next do it, and then after that, and then you do these next things. Like,
yeah, I think he starts latest on the 14th because he said that you could do the 8th or the 14th. So I mean, it's possible even that he'll start on the 8th. But we probably won't have a proposal passed by the 8th. So you'd have to be kind of taking a little bit of a leap of faith that it looks like it's going to pass. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
What is like if Augusto signaling that the strategic plan is a blocker? What is the blocker for the strategic plan?
I actually think there's like agreement. I don't think we put it in front of the community in like we've had calls and we've kind of been talking about it. And I think there's like agreement on fee strategy and even some of the like the targeted pools. But yeah, I think it just needs to be put in front of the community for in like a formal way versus like a DAO talk discussion. Yeah, and I'm hoping that will get done today.
Yeah, I guess questions to answer, right, are like, what are the initial fees set to, both the pair fees and the protocol fees? What pairs are we targeting to launch with? Are they going to be whitelisted or just kind of what we're providing liquidity for? What else? Like, is there a plan around liquidity mining? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that we plan to have like a package prepared. I think it's like more efficient, but also I think it's like there's also a good like I think we will have advantages to be flexible by not defining how we start. So like what pools should we do is maybe something we can answer in 2 weeks after launch.
Right, although we probably should have at least one for the launch, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah,
But I
And,
agree, like the
maybe-
flexibility of power.
Maybe it would help to like ask like from the community like which pools would you like to see? Which ones would you drop some liquidity to?
right. I think that's an example
Yeah.
of something that
Wondering
we
what
don't have
yeah.
that we don't have that feedback yet because we haven't really like put it in front of them in that way. And I think that's the type of feedback the community could give. I could just talk a little bit more about it right now. Actually, if we want, because I think there are a couple things that we have kind of roughly decided on. So let me get this. Yeah, so starting with like the DXD rewards. So Yuri had some interesting thoughts on this kind of, in that there is, when you think of yield farming or liquidity mining, like it is two things. One, it is marketing, and then two, it's an incentive like plan to have long-term liquidity. I think Balancer, for instance, has done as well, where like they've actually had liquidity that's stuck because of their incentives. Whereas like something like Sushi is very, very good at marketing. And that's got like tons and tons of attention. And so DXdao won't be like a super flashy hype project, but it would be good to kind of have a type of launch in a certain way and then iterate after. So on this, the consideration is basically having two separate DXD rewards. One being the launch rewards, which would purely be based upon deposit size or the amount of liquidity deposited, just like how it is with Sushi. And that would only be for like 1 week after launch. And that would be to try to get some of that like liquidity in. And then separate from that would be ongoing liquidity rewards, which are actually would be calculated by fees or trade volume, right? And that would be kind of ongoing, and we would be doing that. And that one would vest for a certain amount of time, 3 to 6 months. Whereas like the initial launch rewards one, just this like 1 week thing, just to make a little bit of splash, considering that those would be like freely tradable, but making the ongoing liquidity rewards more, try to incentivize like long-term liquidity provisions. And that would be like through a vesting process. So they're not just like farming and dumping.
Yeah, well, like one cool thing to not do like, one cool thing could be that we don't say we will launch a DAO for DXSwap, but we would basically like let this drive for a few months and then like retrospectively create a DAO with all those people who have a vesting DXD, which is like basically like not saying that we are planning a DAO and everyone is like, all those money makers are kind of making sure they're in the game, but we're just like not saying it for a long time.
What do you mean
like,
a DAO, Geronimo? We already have a DAO.
DXSwap DAO, because that's the way we will lock people into the game.
Yeah, I think we need to be careful about how we frame that, because I think if you say DXSwap DAO, people are going to start to think new project, new token, new things. I think the connection with DXdao needs to be clear.
Yeah.
I mean you know what I mean. Okay, then let's go.
But the question is, do the 2,000 people in Telegram know what you mean? Do the people?
Yeah,
on
you
Twitter
say
know what you mean?
DAO. You say DAO, and you are going to get a lot of people confused here. Like we are going to do another DAO.
Yeah,
I don't want to have to be answering these questions on Telegram.
I think the Corcus's kind of point, I think, is we actually like, so when you think about like what is DXSwap, it's like Uniswap plus governance, right? And we're having this kind of idea, but we're really only in the initial stage demonstrating like governance of the entire protocol by DXdao, not necessarily what we kind of want to be the long-term vision, which is that like governance of the actual pools are determined by liquidity providers. So like, in what way can we kind of suggest or like do something to highlight the ability for like long-term governance by liquidity providers? And I guess like creating a pseudo DAO would be a way of doing that.
Yeah, but not to like explode with ideas. This is something we can discuss later. I'm really happy to hear that, Chris. You like. It seems like we can have some kind of wannabe plan ready for today. This is amazing. I thought we could discuss it next week on the DXSwap strategic meeting. But this could be like, I think this meeting could be as like a way for finalizing it and then really pushing it through.
So one thing too that I kind of just want to bring up is that like I think we should start being more careful about how we discuss certain strategic initiatives, especially kind of with like dApps, because there's a lot of stuff that I've just kind of seen with Sushi where I'm kind of like, well, these are things that we talked about kind of thing. And not to say that like, that they're kind of like front running some of our ideas, but like, it seems like they're front running some of our ideas, and it might be nice to kind of like, you know, see how they screw something up and then kind of like try to take advantage of that. I don't really, I mean, like you guys know that I'm very, very interested in the appreciation of DXD, but I do kind of want to caution against like FTX and like Alameda and kind of having like just a way where, you know, some giant HFT firm can just kind of like deposit a bunch of money, control the governance, and then just dump on all of our community members. And like, this is kind of, I think that there's a lot of immoral things about that. But you know, it's fucking blockchain, it's whatever. But I just kind of, I did want to like bring that up explicitly on this call, and kind of just so we can start thinking about how we, you know, try to navigate, you know, launching kind of strategic initiatives, understanding full well that like direct competition and you know, front runners could just be like in our chat, you know, not even in our chat, but like listening to this call right now, you know, so something to think about.
Specifically, what do you think was just the forking of Uniswap was the front run piece, or is there something else that they've kind of implemented?
I don't know, you know, it's really hard to like kind of like put my finger on it, but like it seemed like, and this is just conjecture on my part, but it's just my intuition that like a lot of the discussions that kind of like we were having, I mean, it's free software, right? But it's still kind of like one of those things where there's like an anonymous like chef, right? No one's saying like, you know, who's involved. Like there's no one person who's like raising their hand saying that they're involved. And a lot of the on-chain activity seems to point to Alameda. You know, we have like those two guys in the chat, and I don't know, just call it a wild hunch, right? I hope I'm wrong, but you know. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, right? I mean, I think the timing with like that Larry Cermak tweet, that to me was sort of like the smoke signal, but I don't know. I mean, I do agree with you totally, though, that like the FTX behavior kind of between Balancer and SushiSwap, right? They're sort of like the corporate raiders of crypto, right? And it's unclear if they could get away with what they were doing in the US, but I think one of the strengths of DXdao is that our governance is not liquid, right? And we're not necessarily intending to use liquidity farming as token distribution, even.
Well,
right?
I mean, that's like if anything, like everyone who's like interested in like doing kind of like liquidity mining, like they should be joining our chat and understanding kind of, because like I think it's the only reason why like we're in this position we are right now. And I think that, you know, 6 to like 12 months from now, a lot of projects are going to be moving to this kind of, you know, illiquid governance. Like, you know, you got to contribute in order to kind of like participate. Because as you can just see, right, like you have this like, you know, somewhat wholesome project, right? That's essentially just forked, and, you know, it's the golden rule all over again. And like, he, you know, she who has the gold rules, right? And that's kind of, that's just what played out. And it's really fortunate that we have 2 tokens, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And actually, that's how I view even like the SushiSwap and a lot of things in the space. That it's kind of like DXdao is talking about X, and like no one else is talking about X right now. And then just like 2 or 3 months later, it's like, oh, like this, like X is the most important thing. And like, it's kind of like everyone coming to what we've been talking about. I don't know if that's because they're following us, but I think there is kind of, I think DXdao is in a good position and has kind of thought through some of these things. And it might just be, we have to kind of wait for the rest of the industry to come around. But we can, of course, like try to use that to our advantage and be moving strategically in that direction. But yeah, good points.
Yeah, just chalk it up to a healthy paranoia on my part.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think there is some urgency here, right? But I also think there is a temptation to look at the 1.4 billion locked in sushi and think, oh crap, they beat us to it. But they haven't launched an AMM yet, right? We don't know what kind of trading volume they're really going to see. And like you said, Alameda probably controls the protocol, right? So like, I think in a way, while it kind of is a little scary to watch, I'm sure Uniswap Hayden feels the same way, right? Looking at it, I think in a way it's actually bullish for DXdao, right? They're proving that the forking is doable, that liquidity can move, that you can triple Uniswap's liquidity overnight, right? But they haven't offered any innovation, right? And they haven't figured out governance. And while it maybe seems like DXdao is going a little bit slow, we're actually putting a lot of hard work into process, community. We have the governance platform, right? That stuff's just not easy. It's just not easy to fork. Yeah. Like some anonymous Twitter account can't fork DXdao overnight. It's just not going to happen, right? Like, and I think the crypto world is going to wake up to this fact, and they're going to wake up sooner rather than later, because you have protocols like CVP coming out, like the power pool, and the Raider money is just going to pour in, right? And it's just going to get, these guys have no scruples, right? There's nothing stopping Sam from Alameda from just doing a complete out like governance attack on these liquidity tokens, on these liquid governance tokens. And I'm like, I think we stick to our plan, and frankly, if the moles are here, like, good for them. Like, that's what we're doing.
If you're here, fuck you from me. Not
Good luck, guys. You're welcome.
I mean, I think. Go ahead, Sky.
No, I was saying, who's this Corcus account, this M account?
Seriously, goddamn shills showing up in the chat.
No, I mean, I think like Uniswap v3 is what like I'm thinking about, or like what is kind of like AMMs in the future going to be about, like not like how do you kind of like get a quick liquidity right now. So I'm thinking of like, well, how does DXSwap like also plug into like a balancer type thing in the background? How do you have like a curve thing in the background too? Like those are all like things that I think can be built into this. And like as John said, like you can't fork that and just.
Yeah, I mean that's what keeps me up at night is Hayden teasing us about V3. Like, what are they thinking? Because I think this AMM space is just beginning. Like, forking Uniswap is not enough. Like, this is just beginning. There's huge problems, capital inefficiency, gas costs. Like, this is going to change very rapidly, and that is going to be the real key. Is how to keep a technical edge while also pushing the governance edge that we already have.
Is Uniswap going to make V3 like not fully open source?
We have no idea what it is, but we can imagine.
I mean, it's just everyone says is like, yeah, we solved that, and it's going to be great, and there's like no details about it. And so, obviously, I think things like scalability, impermanent loss, and kind of capital efficiency. Or like everything would probably be kind of included in that. I don't know if it will be the perpetual motion machine it claims to be that.
Well, like one of the things that I think that Uniswap is actually doing that's really interesting is kind of this concept of like virtual balances, so that like when you have, and this doesn't kind of like dampen necessarily like impermanent, well, it does a little bit, but essentially like it kind of like scales up order sizes as like there's a flush of liquidity in. So it kind of, in a very, it's a lot less naive, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a lot less naive of of a automated market maker than like Uniswap v2 is.
Yeah, I think in the short term, a big advantage of DXSwap over all of these other ones, and Uniswap and Balancer right now, is the fee flexibility. If you look at like DXD liquidity right now, it's like trades are all happening on Uniswap. That's the first place. But like most of DXD liquidity is on Balancer in pools with high fees because they're worried about impermanent loss. And so I wonder if there's just like some opportunity on both like high fee size on these volatile assets and to kind of attract liquidity, and then also like very, very low fees and to be able to like make it appealing to trade pairs. But also what makes DXSwap different than Balancer is you can adjust the fees. Whereas like Balancer, it's like a set it and forget it. So I think that is an area that we can kind of focus on.
On the DXSwap launch, when there was like launch with some pairs, and then like 2 weeks later, maybe community wants to add more pairs or suggest things. Oh, maybe we're gonna talk about this on another call, but yeah, like having a few more than one pair and DXdao providing a lot of the liquidity, that's like initial good success, and then people add on top of that, and then you start adding the additional pairs. But I think like having 3 or something like that, where DXdAO's launching with big liquidity.
Yeah, I think some of like the slowness, we're talking about how to like get proposal and get a DXSwap. That's why I think we need to start thinking about like what we're doing 2 or 3 weeks after launch, because we actually need to start like that thinking process now, just because like we have a little bit of like time lag delay. And so, yeah, that's why I think whatever it is just kind of adding tokens or adjusting the rewards, like just being prepared to kind of think about those things before they arise.
Yeah.
The L2 question, I think, is a big one too. And I mean, we only have 10 minutes left, so I don't want to go into that. We can talk about this more we can tease tomorrow's strategy call for DXSwap. If you're interested in talking more about DEX strategy for DXdao, please join that call tomorrow. And Sky, did you want to talk a little bit about Pambala? It seems like you've been doing a lot of cool stuff for that. We have 10 minutes left here.
So for those that don't know, well, most people have heard of the Pambala system. It kind of takes from Bitcoin. But it's to fund public goods, and DXdao has been one of the original 5 communities. There are now 10 communities, so it's really turning into, rather than specific entities that are putting force behind other specific projects that are trying to raise money and Gitcoin grants, it's now developed into creating communities, and then those communities have a voice, and people choose one of those communities to be a part of and associate with. And so with this Gitcoin grant, there's a DXdao, which we call a DeFi focused community, and DXdao is just one of the, is not the leader of this in any way. It's just the organizer of this DeFi based community. And the idea is that that community, anyone in the DeFi space or the blockchain space or the world that wants to help contribute to building, giving money and supporting important key projects in the DeFi space that may get overlooked by VCs and other things like things building for mixing or privacy or decentralization or DeFi portfolio management. These guys, have Gitcoin grants, but they're all kind of by themselves. So what we decided to do, and this is kind of a suggestion from Niren, who this is his vision, is within these communities, one idea was to have awards, and everyone loves awards. And I don't think there's anyone out there that has given awards in the blockchain space to open source communities, right? So in this round, what we've done is we've done a vote, and we are supporting 10 in 5 different categories, 10 different projects that mainly also have Gitcoin grants. But what people in the DeFi community and this is what we want to spread, they can, if they agree that these 10 projects are really important in general to accomplish a decentralized open finance infrastructure for the world, they could easily just give to this Gitcoin grant, which is this DXdao DeFi community-based single grant, and the money is going to go, all the funds, which is Panvala plus Panvala matching plus CLR matching, all that money is going to then get split up between those 10 award winners, and maybe they would give them a trophy too. But the idea is that someone who is new to DeFi or just wants to support important projects in DeFi can use this. And the powerful thing is that DXdao is leading this community, is not the leader of it, but is driving this community. And so it's also spreading awareness of DXdao. It's spreading. It's going to bring people in. It could help recruit talent to join and contribute to DXdao. So we hopefully can make the most of this during the next, it's like 2 to 3 weeks as this next round of Gitcoin grants is going. There are a few other communities, like SheFi is one of the communities as well. So that's obviously a women-focused, like education community, but also related to DeFi. And so we can team up with them. We can tag team on things. And so, that's the plan over the next few weeks, that it hopefully brings a lot of awareness. And the cool thing is that a lot of the other communities, like Common Stack, has a real big community, and they're one of the communities, and they're driving their public goods. But Panvala prices also increased dramatically, which higher prices always brings more attention. So the idea is that hopefully more and more people use Panvala and hold Panvala. And so what our community can do is we can stake Pan to this community grant, and then people can donate. And so this is not DXdao asking for money at all. This is DXdao driving money towards the projects that are important in the DeFi community. And so that's the overall big picture. And so whatever we can do marketing wise to get that out there, and we can ask our partners like Gnosis to drive it too, would be to make it successful. Like if we could drive like tens of thousands of dollars to these 5 important projects as one big community, then the next time we do this community is going to grow bigger without a doubt. That's all.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a really great thing. I mean, go ahead, Chris. Yeah.
I was just going to say that. I just think it's a great thing to do on like a whole host of things, whether it's like the actual thing that we're promoting or DXdao is kind of trying to drive. I think these are good initiatives to support part of the mission of DXdao. Obviously, I think there's some like benefit that comes back to the DXdao too, in whether it's from goodwill, but also I think from I think recruiting talent is an important thing. And even we were talking about this with maybe even funding some of these projects more after this directly from the Treasury, because they've done good work in building decentralized infrastructure that that DXdao is using. And then like the awards part of this is also really, really cool and an opportunity to kind of build on in the future. I don't know if it'll happen now, but I'm just in general wondering if we could do cool things with voting. So I don't know if this is like somehow voting on chain or somehow having some kind of cool way of voting on these awards in the future. And 2 is like the actual award. I don't know, it's an opportunity to like create like an NFT or something for these projects to end up winning this, that is like a DXdao award that can happen. But yeah, I think this is something that good initiative that we can focus on now, and hopefully it works, kind of get the word out right now, and then also something to build on for the future.
Yeah, the NFT, I do a lot in NFT world too. So I've asked the designers if they could design a cool NFT. It would be awesome if DXdao had the ability to mint the NFT. I have a feeling that's not easy, so we have other ways to do it, but I don't even think DXdao could send an NFT. So we can do a workaround for now, but like in the future, that would be ideal. Is like this whole thing is controlled and the voting mechanisms, like you're saying, and the entire DeFi community starts to vote on these things and propose. And so it's like it's just a layer on top of what's already happening in the greater Gitcoin CLR matching ecosystem. There's a lot of
Very
different
cool.
paths that can go. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, great work leading that, Sky. Okay, awesome. I guess we're just about at the hour, so unless there's any last things, we can wrap. Elon, there's a call right at 3 hours again to follow up with yesterday. Do I have that right?
Yeah, in 3 hours. 3 hours?
3
4
hours.
Yeah, 3 hours.
3 hours, and thanks. Yeah, thanks for putting that together. It's great to see a ton connecting with the DXdao, and looking forward to that call this afternoon.
The other, now I think it was Nico who brought it up again in chats, but like as we start to explore in a cross-chain interoperability, like whether you're talking about Gnosis safes or you're talking about DXdao, like the DAO operating as a multi-sig, it's like one big multi-sig. And then there was an idea of like mapping wallet addresses so members can use maybe a different wallet that's not a smart contract wallet on another chain like XDAI. That's a very key infrastructure problem that needs to be figured out as we move forward, because without that, it stops everything from happening. Anything that's cross-chain, even on Coven, not just XDAI, but even on Coven, that's an issue. So a lot of people use smart contract wallets for this DAO, I think, and so it's quite important to figure out.
Yeah, I think this is like super critical, and I guess Nico and I chatted about this earlier.
Yeah, that's definitely something we need to dig into.
I mean, a decentralized, I don't know if decentralized, but an anonymous mapping tool could be interesting, maybe with signing transactions from one address to like your secondary address, let's call it. I think that's, I mean, theoretically we can do it with like 3 blocks right now. Each DAO member needs to sign with their secondary address in 3 blocks. Like this just sprang to mind. So yeah, and then we would map, like any second layer would be mapped to that address, and that cannot be a contract wallet.
I mean, another way, like to not complicate all those things, is just social consensus. Like if someone, like if, for example, I have Gnosis Safe, I would basically just create a proposal and request to be added as a new address on the XDAI chain. And if someone else wants to do it, they can do that too. I don't think I'm not sure what the rate of smart contract wallet members are. I guess it's not above 50%.
I would guess it's a lot, because a lot of people, like back then, it was like use Gnosis Safe because you can transfer.
I see.
Yeah, it was the recommended wallet for the initial staking period by Gnosis.
That your social solution works, but that's very far away from like a snapshot of current rep holders onto any chain. It would be quite a bit different, I think.
No, so the way I would imagine this is we can actually see who are the members that are using a contract wallet, and then exclude them from the reputation snapshot. And then basically, they have to, I don't know, maybe somehow prove this is their address on mainnet and request that same rep on XDAI. That could be like a bootstrapping period for that.
Yeah, that's almost like you're not excluding but punishing anyone that used a smart contract wallet. Like,
Yeah, it is. It is.
it's unfortunate.
I mean,
Highly unfortunate.
I think another problem with that is maybe it's getting fixed, but I don't think the legacy Gnosis Safe app could do signed messages. But anyways, we're getting a little technical here at the end of the call. But yeah.
You can't. You actually can't do sign message from a contract wallet.
Yeah, I think this is solvable.
Wait.
But we need to get with Gnosis about this and figure it out.
That's actually like I did signing with a Gnosis Safe, so I don't.
With the legacy app?
Of course.
With the mobile app?
Okay.
There's two so that's very confusing. There's two Gnosis Safes. There's the old Gnosis Safe from like over a year ago, and then there's the new one. But the new one, I think, could probably do it. But
no, there's three basically, right? I mean, there's the original.
The multi-sig, the safe, and then there's like the unified. Yeah.
Mobile smart contract wallet. Like there's gonna be a new one, a mobile one. There's gonna be 4.
We'll talk to Gnosis and get it straight at some point. Yeah, soon. But yeah. Anyways, shall we wrap the call because we're just a little over the hour now, and see people later at the DAO Stack chat with a ton.
All right, guys.
Bye bye.
Great call.
Have a good day. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.